Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my channel? Thank you so much. A moment of weakness revealed such a deadly secret that it threatened to shake the foundation of everything. That night, Dean was away on another business trip. By now I was used to it, but this time I wasn't completely alone. Still, there was a strange uneasiness I couldn't quite put into words. It wasn't loneliness, but a void deep inside me that I desperately wanted to ignore. To clear my head, I decided to do something for myself, just a small escape, something to fill that empty space, even if only for a little while. Dean was gone, my stepson Francis had gone to a friend's house, and the house was completely empty and silent. I poured myself a glass of deep red wine, grabbed a small glass and sat down, hoping to relax. Then I turned on the TV, keeping the volume loud. It was just me, the quiet house, and the flickering light from the screen. In that moment, I just wanted to fill the void, to push back the emptiness I felt creeping in. The wine warmed my body, and the noise of the TV wrapped around me. For a brief second, the tension inside me seemed to unravel. More gripping true stories like this are waiting for you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I promise this story will be worth your time. So make sure to like the video and stick around until the end. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments too. But then the door quietly opened. At first, I didn't even think it was Francis coming back from his friend's place. After all, I'd been feeling so alone just moments earlier. But before I could even realize what was happening, someone was behind me. Francis had come in without me noticing, silently slipping through the door. I barely had a second to react. No time to lower the blaring TV. The noise, combined with my sudden wave of embarrassment, hit me all at once like a punch in the gut. We both froze, staring at each other in complete shock. His eyes were questioning while mine were filled with the unmistakable shame of being caught off guard. My hands started to shake. I had no idea what to do. I turned around quickly, barely breathing, feeling my heart race. I fumbled to turn down the TV, but it was too late. Everything felt like it slowed down in that moment. His eyes avoided mine, and I couldn't meet his gaze either for what felt like forever. Neither of us said a word. The silence was thick, awkward, and suffocating. I tried to pull myself together. My throat felt dry and my words stumbled out. "I'm sorry, I thought I was alone," I mumbled. But my voice came out so shaky even I didn't believe myself. The anxiety in my chest was unbearable. I could feel it radiating off me. Francis stayed quiet for a moment, but then he gave me this smile. A strange, almost cold smile. "It's okay," he said, still smiling. "We all try to deal with loneliness sometimes." I get it. What did he mean by that? I couldn't tell. His words seemed layered, like they carried something else, something unspoken. And his eyes, it was like he was searching for something. I was too scared to even think about it. We both stood there in silence for a little longer. I couldn't find the words to fill that void between us. I didn't know what to say, so I just looked down, letting my gaze fall to the floor. "All right then," I muttered, though even that sounded wrong coming out of my mouth. Francis took a step back, breaking eye contact. Then he gave me a small nod and said, "I just came to grab something, but maybe." He didn't finish his sentence. Instead, he turned quickly and walked out of the house. That moment left me feeling completely off balance, like everything was far away and tangled in knots. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but it didn't help. I was restless. Just when I thought everything was under control, it all slipped into chaos again. After Francis left, I sank into the silence of the house. It was so weird. Suddenly everything felt so different. The sound of the TV was still echoing in the room, but at the same time, there was this emptiness inside me, like something in my life had gone wrong. Slowly, I got up from the couch and walked toward the bedroom, but with every step, Francis's face kept appearing in my mind. Felt so strange. I almost started doubting myself. Dean was a truck driver. He was gone for long periods of time, usually a few days, sometimes even a week. He was hardly ever around, so I was used to it. But tonight, everything felt different. Dean leaving, then Francis coming back home, suddenly made all those years of being alone feel like a distant memory. It was like my world had just shifted. Francis had come back from college 2 weeks ago, and everything felt so different. I'd spent so many years alone and suddenly living under the same roof with someone. An adult, my stepson. How was I supposed to even explain this? Francis was 25, mature, impressive, and smart, but facing him like that stirred something inside me. It was like, with the way he looked at me, I could feel his entire presence, like he was seeing me as someone else. I slowly sat on the bed and laid my head on the pillow, closing my eyes. I couldn't let things get more complicated. What was this feeling? Was it fear? Desire? I opened my eyes again and just stayed in the darkness for a while longer. That night, I questioned the meaning of everything. Eventually, I fell asleep, but when morning came, the unease inside me hadn't gone away. As the first rays of sunlight started to filter into the house, the preparations for breakfast began. But today, everything felt different. The things in the house seemed somehow more careful, more strange. The teapot clicked, the bread toasted, but I was still thinking about the night before. When Francis came to breakfast, he seemed a little calmer, but his gaze was still sharp. Without saying a word, he began to set the table, but he was the first to break the silence. "I didn't mean to embarrass you last night." "I'm sorry," he said, his voice softer now. Quietly, I wasn't thinking. "I know I had some issues with Barry too, so I had other things on my mind. We just broke up." I was distracted. The subject of Barry seemed like something too personal to talk about, but I still felt the need to respond. "I get it, Francis. It's no big deal, really. It's just, well, sometimes when no one's around I get a little messy," I said, my voice still shaky. But maybe he could tell I was feeling more than I was letting on. Maybe Francis was looking at me more closely now. In that moment, I tried to keep my eyes on the floor to hide the tension I was still holding in. I needed to explain what was going on, what I was feeling. But somehow, even this morning, everything still felt complicated. During breakfast, neither of us said much, but that morning, the tension was still thick in the air. That evening, I spent the entire day lost in thought. Everything was still so unclear in my head. It was so complicated that I couldn't focus on anything. I decided to read a bit in the bedroom. As I turned the pages of the book, every word seemed to lose its meaning. The effects of the wine were still with me, but I needed it right now. I was alone in that moment, and I didn't want to think about anything else. The door to the room suddenly cracked open. When I looked up, I saw Francis quietly step inside. There was something in his eyes, but I couldn't figure out what exactly it was. He just moved a little closer, almost like he was trying to avoid something. "It must be tough being alone like this," he said, his voice a bit softer than usual. At that moment, I didn't know what to say. He'd been alone for as long as I could remember because his dad, Dean, was a truck driver. Was it fear? Desire? I opened my eyes again and just stayed in the darkness for a while longer. That night, I questioned the meaning of everything. Eventually, I fell asleep, but when morning came, the unease inside me hadn't gone away. As the first rays of sunlight started to filter into the house, the preparations for breakfast began. But today, everything felt different. The things in the house seemed somehow more careful, more strange. The teapot clicked, the bread toasted, but I was still thinking about the night before. When Francis came to breakfast, he seemed a little calmer, but his gaze was still sharp. Without saying a word, he began to set the table, but he was the first to break the silence. "I didn't mean to embarrass you last night." "I'm sorry," he said, his voice softer now. I came in quietly, I wasn't thinking. "I know I had some issues with Barry too, so I had other things on my mind. We just broke up." I was distracted. The subject of Barry seemed like something too personal to talk about, but I still felt the need to respond. "I get it, Francis. It's no big deal, really. It's just, well, sometimes when no one's around I get a little messy," I said, my voice still shaky. But maybe he could tell I was feeling more than I was letting on. Francis was looking at me more closely. Now, in that moment, I tried to keep my eyes on the floor to hide the tension I was still holding in. I needed to explain what was going on, what I was feeling. But somehow, even this morning, everything still felt complicated. During breakfast, neither of us said much, but that morning the tension was still thick in the air. That evening, I spent the entire day lost in thought. Everything was still so unclear in my head. It was so complicated that I couldn't focus on anything. I decided to read a bit in the bedroom. As I turned the pages of the book, every word seemed to lose its meaning. The effects of the wine were still with me, but I needed it right now. I was alone in that moment, and I didn't want to think about anything else. The door to the room suddenly cracked open. When I looked up, I saw Francis quietly step inside. There was something in his eyes, but I couldn't figure out what exactly it was. He just moved a little closer, almost like he was trying to avoid something. "It must be tough being alone like this," he said, his voice a bit softer than usual. At that moment, I didn't know what to say. He'd been alone for as long as I could remember because his dad, Dean, was a truck driver. Dean wasn't around much, which had made things hard for Francis. But hearing it like this up close for the first time felt weird. "Dean's choices made it so I had to leave you alone, didn't they?" he said. His eyes couldn't stay still for a second, but the emotion in his voice was clear. "But I'll do whatever it takes so you're not alone, Diana." His words hit me in a way I wasn't expecting, but I still couldn't understand what it all meant. The warmth in his eyes clashed with the cold loneliness I'd been carrying. How long had it been since I'd been this close to someone? I looked away and took a deep breath. "Thank you," I managed to say, but I didn't even know how honest it was. "Diana," he started, his voice softer than I expected. He didn't look away this time, but he still looked a bit nervous. "That night, the night I caught you watching TV." My heart started racing. I wasn't expecting him to bring that night up. What was I supposed to do? Should I look away? Or should I keep my cool and keep looking at him? Just as I was about to say something, his phone buzzed again. Francis's eyes immediately went to his phone, and I couldn't help but glance at the screen. It said Barry. Again, the silent buzz of the phone cut through the moment. Francis furrowed his brows slightly, but this time he wasn't as calm as usual. He picked up the phone, watched the call for a second, then rejected it without saying a word. That move grabbed my attention more than anything. After Francis put the phone back on the table, he sat there quietly for a while. His hands were on his knees, and his gaze was on the floor. The silence between us filled the room. Finally, he took a deep breath and looked at me. "Diana," he said, his voice more certain now. His eyes didn't look away, not even for a second. "I don't like you being alone that night. What you did was innocent. Maybe you did it because you were feeling lonely, but from now on," he paused like he was picking his words carefully, "from now on, I'm not going to let you be alone. I'll do whatever it takes." His words were so clear and direct that for a moment I didn't know what to say. I wasn't expecting him to be so straightforward, but at the same time, those words stirred something warm inside me. "Francis," I started, my voice barely above a whisper. It was hard to find the right words in such an intimate moment. "You saying this means a lot to me, but you have your own life. You don't need to worry so much about my loneliness." He shook his head slightly. "No, Diana, it's not like you think. Dean's always coming and going. I know he leaves you alone. It's not hard to see. But you," he paused for a second, looking at me more carefully, "you deserve so much more than that. Someone should be looking after you, Diana, and I'm ready to do that." His words echoed inside me. My eyes locked onto his face. There was sincerity in what he said, but also something else, something I couldn't quite understand. "Francis," I said, this time my voice calmer and clearer, "your kindness surprises me, but you're my stepson. We both know where the boundaries are, right?" Francis tilted his head slightly with a small smile. "Boundaries," he said, almost mumbling. "Yeah, I know the boundaries, but sometimes boundaries shouldn't be walls between people. Maybe the loneliness in this house is just too much for all of us." Just then the door knocked. Both of us looked at each other in surprise. Who could it be at this hour? Francis got up and headed toward the door. I stayed seated, but my heart started racing. As soon as the door opened, Barry's voice filled the room. There was anger and challenge in his words. "Oh, so this is you guys," he said, his voice cold and sharp. His eyes first went to Francis, then to me. "Really great timing to reject my calls, Francis, but I think I get it now." Francis took a deep breath, his voice controlled. "Barry, why are you here? This isn't the time." Barry took a step forward, leaning in close to Francis. "No, it's the perfect time because I already heard everything," he said, raising his phone in the air. "Yeah, everything." The phone was on. I heard the whole conversation, and don't worry, I recorded it too. When I heard that, my blood ran cold. Everything we said was recorded. My heart was pounding in my chest. "Barry," Francis said, his voice now more forceful, "this is completely unnecessary. If you listened, you'd understand how innocent everything we said really was." Barry laughed sarcastically. "Innocent? Really? Let's see how innocent it is when I tell Dean. His eyes turned to me. We'll talk, Diana. Let's see how Dean reacts when he finds out. I was still in shock. Barry's words were echoing in my head. Barry, stop. I said, my voice shaky but firm. I think you're misunderstanding what we said. It wasn't what you think. Barry held on to his phone tightly as he pulled back. I can't say what any of this really means until I tell Dean, he said. He turned to the door and added without hesitation, we'll be seeing each other very soon. He slammed the door behind him as he left. The silence in the room was thick, like the air had become heavy. Francis rubbed his face with his hands, and I was left not knowing what to do or say. This isn't good, Francis said, his voice hoarse. He looked at me, but this time there was guilt in his eyes. If Barry tells Dean. Francis, I whispered. My mind was all over the place. Barry's plans, the chance Dean might find out everything that had just happened. It felt like a house of cards ready to fall apart. After Barry slammed the door and left, the silence in the house lasted for a while. Francis sat there still without saying anything, deep in thought. Seeing him so quiet made me even more uneasy. He was gone for 2 hours talking to Barry on the phone. He stayed silent, but finally, he took a deep breath and broke the silence. I talked to Barry, he said, turning his head to me. His voice was low and determined, but there was anger in it. What did he say? I asked, my heart racing. Francis frowned like he hated what he was about to say. All Barry wants is for me to marry him. He threatened me. He said if I don't marry him, he'll show the recording to Dean. For a moment I was stunned. Marry him, I said, almost in disbelief. Francis, this is crazy. Why is Barry doing this? Francis took a deep breath and ran his hands through his hair. Because he's obsessed. He couldn't accept it when my thing with him ended. But the truth is, I never loved Barry. Diana, I know him too well, and marrying him would feel like throwing myself off a cliff. I absolutely don't want to do it. His determination helped me relax a little, but I couldn't ignore the gravity of the situation. So what are we going to do? I asked, my worry clear in my voice. We can't let Dean find out. He'll misunderstand everything. Francis locked eyes with me, his face full of desperation. I don't know. For now we just wait. We have to take Barry's threats seriously, but we need to find a solution. Dean's back in 3 days. When I heard that, I felt my chest tighten even more. 3 days? There was so little time. Finding a way out seemed almost impossible. Despite Francis's determination, the pressure on us was growing by the second. Just then, Francis's phone rang again, the melody echoing in the room. We both flinched and looked at the screen. This time it wasn't Barry calling, it was Dean. Francis quickly grabbed the phone and answered. Hey, Dad. Dean's voice came through clearly from the other side. Francis, things wrapped up faster than I expected. I'll be home tomorrow. Those words took both of our breaths away. Tomorrow? We didn't even have 3 days now. Francis went silent for a moment, then said, Got it, Dad. We'll be waiting for you. The call ended. The expression on both our faces had completely changed. Francis put the phone down on the table and looked at me, a cloud of worry on his face. He's coming tomorrow. In that moment I realized that time had run out. We only had a few hours to neutralize Barry's threat, and nothing was ready. Dean's return felt like a storm about to crash down on us. That night, we both quietly retreated to our corners. The weight of not having a solution felt like a rock on our shoulders. Before heading to his bed, Francis looked at me one last time. There was a strange calm in his eyes, but I couldn't tell what was hidden beneath that calm. Everything will be fine, Diana, he said quietly, but I knew he didn't believe those words, and neither did I. I lay down in bed, but I couldn't close my eyes. Thoughts were spinning in my head. Barry's threats, Francis's helplessness, Dean's return. It all combined into a mess in my mind. Even those calm looks from Francis wouldn't leave me. I tossed and turned for hours before finally falling asleep. When I finally did fall asleep, it was already early morning. But as soon as I woke up, that strange emptiness in the air immediately warned me that something was wrong. When I stepped out of my bedroom, the silence in the house hit me like a knife. I walked to Francis's room, and when I opened the door, I was hit with the reality. His room was completely empty. The closet's drawers, everything was cleared out. The only thing left was a piece of paper on his bed. My hands trembling, I reached for it and began to read. Diana, I'm leaving with Barry. This is my choice. I couldn't let Dean ruin your marriage, so I had no choice but to leave. This is my mistake, and I'm sacrificing my life to fix it. Please try to understand. I told you I didn't want you to be lonely, but this time loneliness is something I'll have to face. Take care of yourself. Tell Dean everything is fine. I'm going to try to start over with Barry somewhere far away, but know this. I'll never forget you. Francis. The paper slipped from my hand. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, my eyes burning. Francis had ruined his life for me. He was even willing to marry Barry just to lighten the pressure on me. As I struggled with my thoughts, the doorbell rang. Dean had arrived. I didn't know how to face him. Holding Francis's note in my hand, my eyes still filled with tears. I opened the door. When I saw Dean's tired but happy face, the pain inside me grew even more. Diana, he said cheerfully, I missed you. I lowered my head, unable to say anything. Francis's absence had filled every emptiness inside me. As I hugged Dean, deep regret weighed on me. Francis had been the last real friend I had in that house, and now I'd lost him completely. Dean had no idea. He could never find out. But Francis's sacrifice would always be a wound inside me. Every time I thought about how he must have felt leaving that house, what kind of pain he had to endure, I couldn't hold back the tears. The tears. Francis was gone, and now I had to live with the truth that he'd sacrificed everything to protect me. If you've made it this far, I know my story's gotten to you. There's so much more to share, and trust me, you don't want to miss a thing. So hit that follow button, turn on the notifications, and leave a comment with your thoughts about this story. I can't wait to hear what you think, so let's talk about it in the comments. Your support means the world to me.